So sure, I mean, there are quite a few perceptions about data analytics and data science, which I feel are a little inaccurate or incomplete on their own, right? So for example, so the way I think about data analytics career is breaking it down to two different streams, right? Like one is a technical stream. There is a second path in the data analytics career stream, which is more of a managerial path, right? Where you are a lot of automation already that does this. So the role of a data analytics person has evolved maybe more towards like the high value added work streams. Like, hey, don't. But what's important as a data analytics professional is like, how do you make sense out of that data, and how do you first of all break the business problem into something tangible that a data person can solve, right? Like that's the most. So, as I said before, right, having a curious, open, problem-solving mind is something that I think I would rate as the number one skill that's required here, because you're essentially solving.
Hi viewers, welcome to Teens Career Telescope. This is a talk show which brings to light the life of a career for teenagers. So why are we starting this show? The main objective is to bring the careers to reality in a simple way so that the teenagers are able to relate to it, understand what different careers are truly like. And we are going to cover some aspects which you will not be able to find in social media. You can get to know them only when you talk to professionals. And that's what we are going to do today. So stay tuned till the end. Today, we are going to cover data analytics as a career. This is an area where many teenagers are keen to know what it is all about, how it will suit them, if it is really aligned to their interests. So we are going to cover that today. And to discuss on this career, we are thrilled to have Harshad Shrikhande on the show. He's a seasoned professional with a decade of experience in data analytics and data science. With a strong educational foundation in computer engineering and an MBA from one of the top institutes in India, he's here to share insights about the dynamic world of data and why it's an exciting career path for future generations. So without any further delay, let's get into it. Hi, Arshad. Welcome to our channel. Thank you so much for taking time, because I know it's a Saturday morning when we are doing this interaction. Not many would choose to join such an interaction and share about a career to help teenagers and others, but you have done that, and we are really grateful for that. So with that, I would like to ask about data analytics today, because that's one of the profession where many teenagers are showing interest today and they would like to know more. So we want to understand a little more about that profession today. So start by sharing a little more about yourself. Thank you.
So my name is Harshad, and so I actually grew up in the city of Nagpur in Maharashtra, India. And when I was studying in my high school, as was the case with many other kids in that generation, I wanted to pursue computer engineering and wanted to do something in that field, right? And that's what I ended up doing from a college called as Triple IT Hyderabad. I studied for 4 years there. Then I started working in an IT company as a software developer, and that's when I really realized that I probably don't want to continue down the field of software development. And I then realized how disinterested I was actually in that field. So I then chose management after that, and I completed my MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. Since then, I've been working in the field of data analytics or data science for around 10 years. And I've right now based in San Francisco Bay Area. I stay here with my wife and a beautiful daughter who is 3 years old. And through this episode, I would be happy to share my experience and my thought process about this whole field of data analytics.
That's great to know, Asher. Thank you so much for sharing, and what a amazing journey, I would say, in data science or data analytics. This is a term which in professional world we hear a lot today. And many times when I interact with teenagers, they don't really understand what this really means. So being an expert in that profession or in that field, how would you explain to teenagers what data science or data analytics really mean?
So sure, I mean, there are quite a few perceptions about data analytics and data science, which I feel are a little inaccurate or incomplete on their own, right? So for example, people think that data analytics or data science is about solving some complex mathematics. Some people think it's about numbers and just numbers and maybe some puzzles and things like that. There are some thought process around that, hey, data analytics or data science is about making some fancy charts in some fancy presentations and slides, whereas some think it's just about programming, right? Uh, I would say in reality, data analytics, simply put, is essentially solving a business problem using data and insights, right? Like that's the core definition of what data analytics really is. Everything else that I just mentioned is supporting or enabling that whole process of solving a business problem, right? So, say you have a challenge at hand of identifying which colleges are best for you, right? And you're trying to go through tons of data available online about college rankings, placements, the number of students, and things like that, but you're not able to really make sense out of it and figure out which colleges are best for you, right? So if this was a data analytics problem, the way you would normally go about figuring out the best colleges is to really identify the key performance indicators of a college. And that could be all the data regarding a college, for example, number of students, fees, the placement ratio, the quality of the professors, things like that, right? And then you would collect this data in an Excel file. You would try to build some kind of a ranking system for each college, and finally arrive at the top three or top five colleges which you think satisfy all those performance indicators, or let's say, they score high on all those performance indicators. So this is nothing but a classical example of how data analytics is used in everyday life as well to solve a business problem. So it's all about how you can make sense out of the data, apply some data analysis techniques, and finally solve the business problem using some insights, right? And I believe a curious mind is always applying data analytics in some shape or form. And the same is required while you think of it as a career also.
Awesome. And I really like the example that you chose to explain, which I'm sure every teenager would be able to relate with. But that actually simplified the entire concept of data analytics, right? But what I want to ask is, why is this gaining so much traction and momentum right now? Because businesses used to have problems ever since they started. But suddenly there's a lot of focus around data analytics. So why is it happening now?
Sure. And a lot of it actually relates back to just, since the advent of a lot of online technologies, a lot of e-commerce companies like Amazon, they started setting shops since the late 90s, right? A lot of data started getting collected about customers and, people like us who browse websites and things like that, right? So since the last 20 years, just a lot of data has started getting collected. And I think there is now enough technologies, and there are enough, I would say, like processing computing power that companies have, which allows data analysis and data science to happen at scale. Previously, I would say maybe 10 to 15 years back, that was not the case. Maybe data centers and the places where you store data were hard to sort of manage and operate. Now it's relatively easy using cloud computing and things like that to have data stored at scale, and there is enough data to process. So I think there is like a need for someone who is in the data analytics or data science space to really understand that data and provide some kind of guidance to the team on, hey, this is what people are liking about your product, this is what people are not liking, and things like that. So I see this as more of like, there is good data available, there is good computing power technologies available to really mine it, and hence a lot of companies are investing in it now.
That's true. That's true. And with the evolution of technology that's expected to be at a rapid pace in the future, I think data analytics has equal amount of importance in the future, right? Can we assume that?
Certainly. I think the way, the scale at which some of the new technologies, like, I'm sure you would have heard technologies like GPT and Chat GPT and all these now. And I see a lot of even kids in the colleges and others in the professional industry, they use it on a regular basis, right? The scale at which these technologies are coming up, I think the career options have just opened up more than before for data professionals now, right? Like now companies are heavily going to need pretty much everyone in the company with a data analytics mindset rather than just a data analytics team that does it, right? So that just opens up a lot of opportunities in this field for sure.
within data analytics as a career, how does it look like for a teenager? Like, because it's a capability or it's a skill, I would say, but that translating into career, how does that happen? What are the different levels of career in data analytics as a profession?
Sure. Uh, so the way I think about data analytics career is breaking it down to two different streams, right? Like one is a technical stream where you are, let's say, doing all things with respect to engineering the data, making sure the data is stored properly, generating insights, writing or making use of the latest technologies to mine the data. uh, you, you leverage, let's say, the most recent technologies to, let's say, build some complex prediction models and things like that, right? Like you're part of a technical team in a company that does this, and you architect new systems for the company and things like that, right? So you're kind of on the path to becoming, let's say, a chief information officer for the company, chief technology officer for the company, and things like that, right? Like there's a career path there where you can join at a junior level, but then progress through the ranks and be very technically savvy and be close to the data, right? There is a second path in the data analytics career stream, which is more of a managerial path, right? Where you are actually a management and a professional. You are maybe a part of the business teams, like, let's say, sales teams or marketing teams or corporate development teams, but you lead teams that do data analysis, or you lead teams that do uh, data engineering and things like that, right? So you are the person who understands the business problem, and you're able to translate that problem into something that a data team can solve, right? And you essentially become like the product manager or someone who really manages that, but doesn't do the actual hands-on work of data analysis, right? So I think that both these work streams have a lot of different career options. Almost every company hires people who can do these kind of things, either one who is very technically savvy, who can do the data analysis, or a person who is more of a business mindset, who can think through why that problem exists in the first place and then lead teams that can do it, right? So almost every company hires people for both of these. And I feel it's already becoming so ingrained in the day-to-day working of a company that, as I said, right, like it's a skill that everybody should possess rather than thinking of it as someone who can do data analysis.
When you say that, I'm actually thinking of a different perspective, and I want to get your perspective on that.
Mm-hmm.
So when data analytics becomes a skill across the organization, does the value of data analytics specialists reduce in the organization? Like, will there continue to be the need for that kind of core specialist skills, or will that get diluted? What's your view on that?
Yeah. So actually, that's a question that that gets asked almost every time, and even there's, let's say, a new automation that's introduced. For example, Chat GPT was something that got introduced last year, right? So a lot of the data scientists or data professionals, they asked if if Chat GPT can do all things, then is there a need for their role going forward? Or a lot of the marketing teams asked, hey, if Chat GPT can generate a lot of good marketing content, then do we even need it? I feel there's always going to be a need of professionals like data analytics and data scientists. The reason is that not they are the people who stay close to the technologies. They are the people who bring in new data driven systems, or who maintain those systems for the companies, or they are the ones who can recommend companies on where to invest next, what kind of data to get. So there's always like a huge, I would say, spectrum of work or spectrum of need that companies are going to require these people for. The role is going to keep on evolving, right? Like maybe 10 to 15 years back, companies did not have so much technologies, so they probably required data analytics teams to maybe like spend a lot of time on just getting the right data, spend a lot of time cleaning the data and things like that. Maybe today there is a lot of automation already that does this, so the role of a data analytics person has evolved, maybe more towards like the high value added work streams. Like, hey, don't spend too much time thinking about like whether you have the right data, cleaning it up, but spend more time generating insights out of it and tell us how can we use that data for our business problem solving, right? Maybe 10 to 15 years down the line, that role will evolve to something else.
Got it. And that clearly explains, Sasha. Thank you so much for that. Now, going a little deeper into it, what are some of the critical skills to succeed in a data analytics career? Especially, there could be some core skills, right, which they should definitely possess in order to be successful in it. So what are those critical skills?
Yeah. So, as I said before, right, having a curious, open, problem-solving mind is something that I think I would rate as the number one skill that's required here, because you're essentially solving a business problem. So you need to have a way to break down that problem into something that you can solve using data analytics. So first step is really understanding that, and having that mindset really helps, the curious, open mindset. The second thing that's very much required is a little bit of inclination towards numbers and mathematics, right? Like just having that numbers mindset, understanding probabilities and things like that. I think that definitely helps. Uh, the third thing that I would say is having, I mean, a lot of the data analytics jobs today, they do require some form of programming or computer science background. And the way that really helps is when you build something in an automated fashion that runs at scale, you need that kind of a computer science programming background. I won't say that is like necessarily required, but having that knowledge certainly helps in getting your job done in an efficient manner. And the last thing that I would say is very much a skill is your ability to communicate and collaborate with different teams and with different types of people who belong to different backgrounds, right? And that's very important, because when you are a data analytics professional, the final step in your project always is that how do you share what you have done or your insights with the stakeholders in the company? And those stakeholders in the company may not speak exactly the same language as you. They may be from different backgrounds. Someone could be a sales member, someone else could be a marketing team member, things like that. So, how do you collaborate cross functionally with different people, and how do you communicate your insights the right way? I think that is very important. And I would say among all these four skills, having that gives you a very good edge against others in that space.
Is that computer science critical for both these two streams, like technical as well as a managerial role? Or is it okay, or is it more required only for the technical and managerial? It's okay for them to like come to any other stream?
Yeah. So I see today that a lot of the talent that companies want, you know, it's more of like, they want people who, they just don't want people who have computer science background. I mean, they certainly hire computer science background to do some of the engineering related tasks of data, or data science or data analytics. So there is a fair bit of engineering required when you build, let's say, an online movie recommendation system for Netflix, for example, right? Like they have to engineer a lot of things behind the scenes on their website, their app, and things like that, for which they do need people with computer science background. But I say there's more need of people from all diverse backgrounds to actually come in. And as long as they have a problem solving mindset, they love mathematics, numbers, and things like that. And they can sort of break down a business problem into a tangible data problem and solve it using any technology, right? Today, a lot of the technology is also self-serve. For example, you don't need to write a lot of computer science, um, a program or code to execute a data analytics task. There are tools available in the market that help you do that. But what's important as a data analytics professional is, like, how do you make sense out of that data, and how do you first of all break the business problem into something tangible that a data person can solve, right? Like that's the most important part. I think learning a few programming languages or coding languages and things like that can also come along the way. And I don't see that as a blocker to you starting a data analytics career.
Got it. Got it. And we have spoken a lot about data analytics as a career and all the positive things about it. One thing which I focus primarily in these talk shows is also to understand what are the compromises one need to make in this career, which is not easily available in the internet. So from data analytics as a career, and you have been in that career, what are some of the compromises one has to make?
Because of the new cutting edge technologies that are getting introduced, like GPT and a few other technologies. Like it's constantly on, like it's now imperative for a data analytics professional to constantly update himself or herself, right? And that's becoming more of a reality now. Like previously, new technologies were introduced maybe every 5 years or 5 to 10 years. Now it's literally happening every 6 months, where you see something new in the market. And I don't see that really as a compromise, but something that could be, something that's sort of a challenge, that you have to keep yourselves updated. And the core of data analytics, like that doesn't change, like business problem solving using data and insights, but how you solve it using the right technologies is changing fairly rapidly, right? So that's something that a data analytics professional should keep tab on.
Great, great. While these are some of the compromises one has to make, I also want to emphasize to all the teenagers, if you really love working with data and generating insights, imagine the kind of impact they're going to be making. Whatever they're going to derive out of their work is going to help organizations, it's going to help leaders take those critical decisions, which many times also impact the way we live, impact the environment around us and everything. So it's also an opportunity where they have significant potential to change things, to create an impact and leave a legacy if they're really passionate about it, right? So
Absolutely.
with that, I want to move on to the next part of our conversation, which is around, okay, so far to our conversation, teenagers, some of them realize that they want to explore further on data analytics. So what are some of the things that they could do either to explore, to validate or gain skills around data analytics?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that to start with, having always a curious mind about, for example, if you are interacting with a website online, or you go to a grocery shop for some shopping and things like that. Uh, I would say if you are interested in, like, first of all, you can be curious about, hey, what data is getting collected at each step, right? Like, what data am I sharing? How are they, like, how could they be potentially using this data to generate insights about me and things like that, right? Like, as long as you start to relate like data analytics in your day-to-day life and see how businesses may be using it or how someone else is using it, I think you're already on that step towards having that curious or open mind, right? Like there's certainly one thing that I will say, like if you are interested, like try to keep an open mind, see what data is getting collected online and things like that, so that you have that understanding. The second thing is, as I said, start working on polishing your math skills, your probability skills and things like that, because having that numbers background certainly helps when you actually get into the career. um, Third thing that I'll say is, I mean, there's quite a few blogs and you know available on data analytics, which you can constantly read and just see what's happening in the market right now, right? Like you probably won't really understand everything in the detail, but at least a high level understanding that, hey, this is where the data analytics market is going. These are the different sectors or industries in which data analytics is being used and things like that. I think having just that, even a high level knowledge, would certainly help you later when you try to make a decision. uh, Again, as I said, like also stay in touch with the latest technology that's being uh, develop. For example, what kind of cloud computing companies we have today, what products they have, what kind of data analytics tools we have, right? Like just having a basic know-how now would help you later. And as I said, like having a very curious, open, problem-solving mind is finally what it really takes to be successful at data analytics. All the other things that we talked about are just enablers, but having this open mind that you can use for problem solving, I think that's the only thing that you just need to keep on polishing. And as long as you do that, you're ensuring that you are on your path to becoming a successful data analytics professional.
Great, very, very useful tips, Ashar. But the one thing which I like the most is your first step on thinking of how data analytics is applied in their day-to-day life. Because we strongly recommend teenagers, even from the career selection perspective, look at careers on the go. I mean, it's not that, okay, we take 1 hour study about it. It's not going to be like that. Especially the example we often give is when you order something through an online e-commerce platform, you get certain product suggestions. How are they giving you those suggestions? What's running behind the scene? Or when you order food, you have a cart and you don't order, immediately you get a notification that your cart is ready, but you haven't made. So just observe all these things from data perspective and how these are some of the business problems that they are solving through data.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. I mean, we interact today to do a lot of different apps, right? Like for example, we use Facebook for our social media, we use Instagram, Netflix for our streaming movies, right? Like even if you go to these and just try to understand what data will they be collecting about you when you watch something or when you do something, and then how are they serving you, as you said, the product recommendations or movie recommendations and things like that. I think that's like a real life example of how data analytics is actually being used at work, right? Because they collect a lot of tons of data about millions of users, and then based on their data analytics, they essentially serve you something that's very unique for you, right? And that's basically how it works. So as long as you keep that sort of a mindset and try to see in your day-to-day work on how data is being collected and used, I think you're already thinking about that. And then as you polish the rest of the things which I said, I think you're already on your path to becoming a successful data analytics career or a professional. Yeah.
That's going to be really helpful because data analytics is with us already. So it's just that we have to open our eyes to it and see how it's
Mhm.
working, right? So
Exactly.
with that, I want to ask you one last question. So what would be your one piece of advice to teenagers who are in the process of figuring out their career preferences and how to set up their career?
Uh, yeah. So I think my advice is try to introspect and see what kind of skills you have right now, right? Like what are those skills or what are your strengths that you have, and then try to then keep an open mind and map out all possible options where you can go, where those skills can be applied, right? Like don't think about like what just your friends are doing or what some of your other peers are doing, but try to spend some time introspect, like what kind of skills or strengths you have really and what do you want to do with them, and then try to possibly map out all options that are relevant for those skills and then sort of prioritize from there. I would say that is a very good way of approaching, and that probably will lead you to the best outcome down the road.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I don't have second thoughts because that's one of the key principles on which we operate. So that's a great piece of advice. Thank you so much, Harshad. And with that, I covered all the questions, and it was such an insightful conversation that we had now. I'm sure many of the teenagers who are watching this would have got at least a foundational clarity on data analytics, and at least to see if they have some like inclination or interest towards that. So, and if they find it, then they are on the way to explore and then see if that's something they want to set up as their career. So thank you so much for taking time. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your perspectives. And thank you so much for joining hands with us to help teenagers and parents. Yeah.
Sure. Hey, thanks, Prasad, for having me. And it was a pleasure always interacting with you. And I'm especially like proud to see what you're doing and how you're helping kids and their parents choose the right career upfront. So thanks a lot for having me on your episode.